This is totally amazing. Ricardo Gonzalez is live as I'm doing this master class. And this is what's called international cooperation. It's he's talking about the latest messages as I'm starting this master class at 6 o'clock. He speaks in Miami. He just said that his next encounter is going to be in Shasta from the 2nd to the 4th of August. So he's on Facebook Live right now. And I'm going to talk about him in my presentation. So it is such a synchronicity that I can't believe that it's happening. So I'm waiting for people to sign on. And here's Ricardo talking about, because he's just come back from Egypt, and I'm waiting for people to sign on. And I mean, these are the amazing synchronicities, because I think we're all linked by something. We're all linked by some kind of amazing thread. We're all doing, you know, work for the raising of human consciousness on the planet. And this masterclass is about the messages from the Andes. So it's got PowerPoint, and it's going to have a couple of videos that I want to show. So it's going to be interesting. So I'm waiting for people to sign on at 6 o'clock. Hello, everybody that's signing on right now. I was just saying that Ricardo Gonzalez is live on Facebook just as I'm doing this masterclass, and he hasn't done a live show, a live communication in a long time. So just doing this masterclass, I have Ricardo Gonzalez on Facebook. So, and he's part of the masterclass today because he's the contact follow to Peru and to Chile, to the Atacama Desert. So 6 o'clock, I'm going to start. The recording is starting so that we have everything, you know, in one package on, this is called Messages from the Andes. Basically, what I'm trying to get through to people is that, you know, people have been contacted in the United States. And as far as human type, you know, Space Brothers, it was the 50s and 60s in Southern California that they were contacted. And then I think that in 1970, and I'll talk about it in PowerPoint anyway, they went to Chilca Desert in Peru because they understood that they couldn't really get to the normal, you know, everyday people here. And in Chile, Argentina, and different places like that, they just talk to the residents. So you have people that, you know, come off spaceships that are talking to the actual residents of the place. And that's really the kind of contact I think that's important, is the contact face to face with regular people, not people, you know, here, if you're a contactee, you have your own television show, you become famous, you know, you have a movie made about you and all that. I don't think they contact people for that reason. I think they contact people to do something and to actually, you know, cause some change. I mean, I don't think they contact you to have your own TV show. So my job is just to record the contact, my job is just to record the contact. And I started doing a lot of it in the United States. I mean, I've interviewed Travis Walton, I've interviewed a lot of people that have been contacted. But when you start looking at the 1950s and 60s in Southern California, you realize it's a whole different kind of contact in those days. And I'm not doing a show on it, so you're not going to get the show talking about the giant rock group in California, because that's where it started with George Van Tassel, Howard Menger, George Adamski, and so forth in the 1950s. Adamski met his contact in near Palm Springs, November 23rd, 1952. 1952, 1953, 1954, he lectured around the world. It didn't do much good. And so because, and people ask me, they said, well, why did the giant rock group have that? Why were they contacted? Well, two reasons. I'm going to give the two reasons in this masterclass. Number one, in Southern California, the New Age movement was starting with Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi. And we started the New Age movement, we started StarworksUSA, L. Ron Hubbard, and all of that Eastern philosophy started coming in. Buddhism, the Maharishi was there and everything. And I think that because some of this is spiritually based, Southern California was a fertile ground for that. In fact, the lectures that Adamski did in the beginning were called something like A Day in Tibet, because Adamski and Billy Meyer were trained in India. Adamski went to Tibet. So you've got a contactee that already has a background in spirituality there. But it didn't work, because later on, with 1963, with the abduction of Betty and Barney Hill, everything went south to abductions. And then that's where it stayed today. Everybody's talking about little gray aliens. My argument to them is always, if you're talking about little gray aliens, I really don't admire it very much if it takes them 40 years to understand DNA and get it off of glass. So there's a big controversy about what we call abductions today. So naturally, I'm going to have to go to Latin America. I'm going to have to go to where the Space Brother movement went. And how I did that is through the help of Giorgio Piacenza, and you'll see him on my PowerPoint, because I needed an interpreter. I don't speak Spanish. I interviewed about 5 Spanish contactees, and it's found in the book, in this book, All of the Above and Beyond. The last part of this book is word for word what Sisto Paz, Ricardo Gonzalez, Luis Fernando, Enrique Villanueva, all of those guys from different places, because Luis Fernando is from, he's from Bolivia. And what they said, and what their contact was like, and what the messages were. And of course, when I got to meet, and I was just telling for the people that just signed on now, I'm looking at Ricardo Gonzalez live on Facebook. Now, if that isn't a coincidence, when I'm doing something on Ricardo Gonzalez, I don't know what it is. He's on Facebook talking to everybody about the latest messages from Peru as I'm doing this masterclass. I understand a little bit of what he's saying, but I just texted him and said, look, I'm talking about you now. When I found out about his contacts, I had his book, 2 books, Contact from Planet Apu, translated, and The Ark. And I did it on my own because it was important that people understand that these beings that were contacting him, and they're physical people, had specific messages. They did it physically, and it was important for the American public to know Latin American contactees. So ironically, he's on Facebook right now talking. But anyway, so what I'd like to do is start with 2 videos, and they're on Ricardo Gonzalez. When you see the PowerPoint, you'll see that I reached out to everybody. In the 1970s, the contact was starting in Peru in the Chilca Desert. And I've been to the Chilca Desert, you'll see it now. And it was there that with automatic writing, the group that met Sisto Paz Wells and his brother Charlie, who is now transgendered into Veronica, I went and interviewed both of them. They were young guys, they were in their 20s. And the ETs at that time, through automatic writing, were able to tell them time and place. They would land, they would come off the ship, and then invite the boys, and there were 10 boys at that time as a group to come aboard ship. And it was physical contact, and it was in a desert. You'll see how barren and ugly the Chilca Desert is. But when we went for the movie Making Contact, to follow Ricardo's footsteps, I wanted to be in the exact place where Ricardo met Antaral. Of course, they're camping because it's a desert. And I will explain after the video what Ricardo told me with his contact and how it happened. He was alone, he was scared to death. This 10-foot tall man comes right up to him in the desert. But I think it helps a lot if I show you a clip from the movie Making Contact. And I don't know if the film is out or not, so I can't tell you where you could see the whole entire film. You can contact Rob Freeman if you want to see the whole entire film. But I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show 2 clips from 2 films. One is me being in the Chilca Desert, and also under the mountain of Huascaran. The mountain here is basically the base that the Apunians used, and how they came about to speak to the people of Yungay is because that mountain, which is one of the tallest in the world, was going to have an earthquake. So the Space Brothers, those people, went to Vlado Kapitanovich, the head of the hydraulic dam that was there, to tell him, and this is all, it's in Ricardo's books, to take the people, there are 45,000 people in you, take them out of there, because there was going to be an earthquake and the half of the mountain was going to fall. Well, of course, Kapitanovich went to the authorities, but they didn't believe him. They did not believe him. Consequently, there was an earthquake, part of the mountain broke. When I went there with the film crew and with Ricardo, and it's in the film, I was walking over the bodies of 45,000 people. I mean, they didn't even bury them. They put dirt over the whole entire city. So were the Apunians time travelers? Of course, if they knew there was going to be an earthquake. Do they deal with time? Well, obviously they have a relationship with time if they know what the future is going to be. So a lot of Ricardo Gonzalez's, a lot of his predictions are based on future. So I'm going to share the screen, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to share the screen with the first video that I'm going to show you, which is on my website, but you can.
I've been all over the world, and this mountain is alive. There is something about this mountain, the Huascaran, that makes me want to talk to it, because it is not anything like I've ever experienced before. The vibration that I feel from this is very much like the one that I had in my contact in Shasta, but this mountain, for me, seems more like a person. It is alive, it is vibrant, and I'm speechless.
Well, the thing is, with the internet today and all the instant messaging and everything back and forth, they just can't keep a lid on it anymore. I mean,
They can't, but there's so much data if you do your job that is ridiculous to ask if it's real. That is a stupid question anymore. The question should be, what is it? Not, is it real?
Right.
Is it our consciousness expressing itself? Is it visitations? Is it paranormal? And best answer is all of the above. Yeah, juju. It's to mix the real with the unreal, and others that sows disinformation.
Right,
Yeah,
disinformation.
with the information, so you don't know what to believe anymore.
So you can validate every one little hook line and sinker. And that's why we're here. We need to experience it for ourselves.
And it's like you said, it's not for us. It's not about, oh, we believe. It's like,
No, we know.
no, it's not.
We're not believers, we know it. We'll have an experience together. And even when we're together, we're gonna have separate experiences together.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. You know, and if we can document it, great. But we're in the moment, dynamically experiencing what happens by the minute.
And you're doing another thing, Rob. You're having a dialogue about it. And it's only about the dialogue, I think, right now. I think because not everybody can do this. Not everybody can be here. So what we could do is have the talk, have the dialogue, and we'll be representatives of that dialogue. We can do that. First of all, this is where the secrets of the world are, and we have no idea. We in Western culture have not the slightest idea about the early days and all the secret knowledge that was given to them from the stars. So when you say this is the case of the Pleiades, and those 7 bowls were filled with water to reflect the stars, that's a whole other relationship with the planet and the people in the Western world have. So in order to come here, you have to shed every part of your skin that's not, and you have to put yourself into the shoes of the peoples that really had the truth, really had the secrets, and really know how to communicate and mix with the cosmic cultures and with the cosmos in general. We're trying to go back there. We're trying to do it in the modern day world. But the peoples here did it. And they did it in a way that really is harmonious with Pachamama, which is Mother Earth. So isn't it weird we have to go back to saving Mother Earth? Well, you know, it's amazing. People think contact is in a case to face or it's like misc or whatever, but what happened is it's feeling, it's emotion. So when this van opened the door, my first feeling was that Ricardo was connected with the place, yes. But my feeling was that he was happy. It was joy. It was unexplainable joy. And I gotta honestly tell you, this is not the most beautiful place I've ever seen. It's really barren. It's rocky. But there is an energy here. This is a place that has so much energy and joy. It's almost like, let's get ready for the party. Let's get ready. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a feeling that there will be some kind of unexpected event, because I expect nothing. I don't know what's happening, but it is a feeling. I don't know how to tell that to the outside world, that it's a knowing and a feeling, and it just comes without any logic.
Everything was to keep it.
I went back to this morning, and I live in Rocky Mountains. I've been all over the world, and this mountain is alive. There is something about this mountain, the Huascaran, that makes me want to talk to it, because it is not anything like I've ever experienced before. The vibration that I feel from this was very much like the one that I had in my contact in Shasta, but this mountain, for me, it seems more like a person that is alive, vibrant, and I'm speechless. I'm just speechless. I'm speechless.
Yeah, it's alive. It's alive because something is living inside the mountain. Something secret. Yes. feel the similar sensation.
Paola, I can't hear you. No sound.
You
Still no.
Well, look, can everybody can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Yeah,
Now we can.
now you can hear me? Yeah, because the sound is up. It's up full blast. Okay, so this is a monolith that I was looking at in the cave. It's Sichuan, and it's in Peru. And in the early days, the shamans would go into the cave, and this has symbols. It also has, because it's a particular stone, it has a lot of energy, a lot of energy. So I just want to tell you some personal stories in this situation. I wasn't feeling well, and I didn't want to go in the cave. And they said, no, you have to go in there because you've got to see that monolith. It's beautiful glass at the end. And I went in there. I changed my whole physical body. I felt the energy as I was walking in. It was like I was walking in to a very sacred place that had so much energy that it completely changed the way I felt, because I felt like I don't do well in high altitude, and we're dealing with 11 to 12,000 in the Andes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal journey there, because it was a real stretch for me. I live at 5,000, 280 here in Boulder, but when you go up to 10,000, you really begin to feel it. So anyway, so what Ricardo was saying, he was showing the mountain that they have the basin, the Apunians have the basin. He was showing the mountain. We were, of course, the film crew wanted to film UFOs, and they didn't get to do that because I don't think we can have UFOs on demand. I don't think they just come down when you can't ask them to come on and be filmed. I mean, that isn't the way this works. And what was interesting for me mostly is the fact that there were situations that did happen there in Peru where we felt a presence. We felt a presence, and not a physical presence, but a presence of people watching us. So that's the first clip that I showed you. The second clip is going to be of Ricardo. He used to do conferences in Crestone. And we did see something in Crestone. And what I want you to see is what actually the Crestone video, because it's on YouTube. You can see it anytime. But I had taken him to my land in Crestone because I wanted him to buy it originally. And he said, no, contact here. I ended up buying the land. He didn't. But he said, but tomorrow night at 9, and he usually gets the time right. At 9, he said, like 9:05, we're going to have contact, but we have to meditate near the stupa for people that know Crestone. So what I'd like to do is play the YouTube video of him in Crestone after, and this is on YouTube so everybody can see it.
To help tighten skin, never wash your face. Never put these 3 aging accelerators on your face. Let's start with the least of these 3 evils, soap. Soap actually kills healthy skin cells and pulls moisture out of your skin. This makes your face dry, giving you unwanted wrinkles and a crepey look. However, soap isn't the worst thing you can put on your face. There is something you want to avoid much more than soap. See, this remedy is a household staple. You probably have it in your bathroom right now, yet it's so dangerous for your skin. What am I talking about? Petroleum jelly. Petroleum jelly is oil rig workers at the bottom of empty petrol. Still compact.
Paula, can you tell me your opinion about the UFO sighting yesterday?
Oh, well, you are.
Paula, can you tell me about the UFO sighting? About the UFO sighting?
All part of this. It is not just us, it's everybody is part of this. And we are trying to do our best to make
Paula, can you tell me your opinion about the UFO sighting yesterday?
Oh, well, you are. It's interesting. I was very surprised because we came to the stupa and you got the message from that it would not be that night, it would be the following night. And it was activity, 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 and the beginning of the following night there was a ceremony of mantra and operation for everything that we see on the stupa here.
Finally, a message from the people.
I am growing and I'm learning and become this perfect professor. Because I'm beginning to understand what the program is. I'm beginning to understand what the vision is, and that we are all part of this. It is not just us, it's everybody is part of this. And we are trying to do our best to make a difference, to make a change as fast as we can, because Ricardo told me that we could be, this planet could be a model for the universe, for the cosmos, which is a whole new thing, because I thought we were the brothers. I mean, and we have potential and we have hope. So we have potential and we have hope, and we can do this. He says we can do this. Atlanta says we can do this. Cosmic cultures, all of them, you know, come to the to see there are people willing to bring up the vibration and the consciousness and to have a dialogue with the cosmos.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Lo tengo grabado, ¿eh? Hasta se grabó ya. Voy a tratar otra vez. A ver, dice Richard, déjame el mensaje. Okay.
Long time ago, businesses became digitally fragmented.
Can you hear me? Now can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, okay. I have to go back and forth with screen share to show you some of these things. Ironically, Ricardo's still on Facebook. He's still speaking. So I wish I could share what he's telling you because he's giving the latest messages. He just came back from Egypt, but he's speaking in Spanish. So I wanted you to know that couple of things. He came to Crestone in 2015 to ask me to come back to Shasta. Shasta this year is August 2nd through 4th. And he has groups there every year. Also the music, he plays the synthesizer and the voice is his wife's soul. So they're the whole entire package. They program this to send it out to the world. Unfortunately, there isn't really a venue in English anymore because he doesn't come back to Crestone. He does have a show on Gaia. So for you people that want more of Ricardo Gonzalez, who's probably the most commercial of all of the people that I'm going to show you in my PowerPoint. But he was told to go all around the world and he was told to do lectures and he does a lot of lectures in Miami. I know he just did a gathering of a CE5 in Monte Perdido, and which is on the border of France and Spain. And I was there one year and we saw a lot of UFOs. Well, with Ricardo, it's different because they give him the time. They give him the exact time and we have to do a preparation that's almost 45 minutes to an hour of mantras and raising the vibration. And it's everybody together. So I had to show the video part first to tell you that I did go to Peru. And there is a place in the video where you see Ricardo standing by himself in the middle of the desert. And that's where he had his contact with Antaral that you'll see in my PowerPoint. Now, you're not going to have a contact in the middle of New York City. They're not going to come to cities. They're not going to come. What I found out a lot is camping spots. Shasta is an open area for that, because Ricardo said one of the solar discs, and there is in Shasta, and he also says there's a lot of ET activity in Shasta. I mean, Ricardo's the only one that goes to Shasta. Luis Fernando goes to Shasta. Dr. Greer goes to Shasta. And that is one place in the United States. And I'm offering that because it isn't easy to find isolated spots to do that kind of, CE5 communication. Okay, so I'm going to go to my screen share to do the PowerPoint. And let's see, and you'll see it. And I hope you can hear me and see the let's see if I can move it. Okay, so when we're dealing with this, there are no protocols for this kind of contact. It's very difficult to have protocols for it, because what we're dealing with is nobody told us what to do. This is a letter that Oppenheimer and Einstein wrote to President Truman after the atomic bomb, saying, we got to do something, because these people, and they call them cosmic cultures, are coming to see us. It's contact, and we have no protocols for this. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing. It may have to go to the United Nations, but the United Nations is not capable of it. So let me see here. Here's all different kinds of UFOs that people see all over the world. This, is from the Palenque, from their culture, from the Aztec culture, because they already had a basis, the Aztecs and Mayans, for cultures coming out of the world, from the skies, whether it's Quetzalcoatl or any kind of visitation or ancient civilizations. We don't have that here. We don't have that in the United States. That's why it's so important to look at indigenous cultures no matter where you go. The book that has all of the interviews, and the back cover is Ricardo, is UFOs, All of the Above and Beyond. And it has these guys. It has Luis Fernando on the left, Sisto Paz, and Ricardo. Here I am in Colombia. And I went to Colombia because they had a situation there with a researcher named Jaime Rodriguez. And he was able to tell me about face-to-face contact of space brothers that walked into the Ecuadorian embassy and talked to the people there. And the more and more stories I'm collecting of these people walking into embassies or people's homes to visit them or whatever. And it's not in the United States, it's in Latin America that a lot of this happened. In the 1970s, a contactee named Sisto Paz Wells brought a group of people, and Sisto Paz goes to Conscious Life Expo. That's where I interviewed him. In the 1970s, he and his brother Charlie were part of this group. Now there's Sisto on the left, Luis Fernando in the middle, and Ricardo Gonzalez on the right, and a UFO in the sky. You see the circle. These guys have continuous contact because the ETs, and they're all different, that contact these guys want information out to Latin America. Luis Fernando is from Bolivia. I had him come to Laughlin. He told me that he meets what he calls the Great White Brotherhood under Lake Titicaca, that he is transported there in Bolivia. And everybody knows for sure that UFOs come out of Lake Titicaca all the time. And Bolivia is a little difficult for me. I couldn't go there, so I had him come to me. And then I also was at a conference with him with Dr. Michael Sala. You can see us there together in Hawaii. And he explained to me what the messages were. And a lot of them are purification, ascension, the growing in consciousness. And here's, for instance, here's Luis Fernando in Glastonbury in England, and there's a UFO over his head. So, you know, it's in this particular case, because these contactees are so well known, they have contact even when you're taking their picture. And it's just amazing to me. And so what they're doing is, and Luis Fernando, before he became a contactee, was an architect. He was an architect in Bolivia. And he talked to me about how this changed his life and how important this was. And he's spoken in Italy. This is Glastonbury. Here he is in Mount Shasta. So does he come there? Yes, I think he has an interpreter in Mount Shasta. But Ricardo does not. Ricardo Gonzalez does not. Okay, the reason why I think that we have all these contacts in Latin America is because I don't think it's very easy for an advanced technological culture to connect with the brain. They can only connect with the heart. It's a heart connection. You're alive, I'm alive. We respect each other, we're both alive. Our background is totally different than your background. But my feeling just from having, and by the way, the people in Japan are the same way. My feeling being in these cultures, in these Hispanic cultures, is that they are the biggest heart-centered cultures, where when you talk about UFOs in the United States, you're talking about engineering, back engineering craft, propulsion systems, how do they travel, science. They're not here for science. They're here to connect. Here's Enrique Villanueva. I do think he has also an interpreter, and he has groups. You can look him up that meet in Mount Shasta. His story to me was, he is from Peru. These guys were all followers of Sisto Paz Wells in the 70s. He's from Peru. He said that when he was at Mount Shasta, he actually saw a space woman floating between the trees in Mount Shasta after he was meditating. And she came up to him. And he said that it was terrifying for him because it really changed his whole entire reality. This is the young group. All those boys, Oscar, Paco, Charlie, you see Charlie on the right, Sisto and David. They were the young guys that had the contacts in the 1970s. Charlie has transgendered into Veronica. You see me down here sitting with her in Canada. She lives near Scarborough, Canada. So I had to speak to Charlie since I spoke to Sisto because I want to know who they met. And Charlie, who's Veronica, said that they met a being, and there's a kind of a drawing of him named Godar, who was from planet Apu also. And that Sisto was communicating with a being called Oxal. And he was from Ganymede, one of the moons of Jupiter. So this is our solar system. These people are coming here, and they're people, you know, talking to, and you see Sisto and Oxar, and Godar has long hair like Antarel, and you'll see an image of Antarel shortly. And I said to Veronica, who is Charlie, have you seen Godar since you came to Canada? And she said yes, and she brought a witness. There's a picture of the witness in the forest of Scarborough, Canada. He came down to talk to her. She described him like Ricardo describes Antarel, 10 foot tall, long blonde hair. In case of Godard, he has a robe on instead of a tight bodysuit. Here I am interviewing. This is how I did the interviews for the book. I'm interviewing Ricardo with an interpreter. Ricardo Gonzalez came to Laughlin many times. He got a standing ovation because he was giving the messages that they want us to change a timeline, that we, with our thoughts, our feelings, and the way that we communicate can change the world, that we are much more powerful, that they are related to us, that the Apunians' original planet is Apu in the constellation of Alpha Centauri, which is 4 light years away, that they come back and forth. This is what they used to do in the old days. This is the 1970s. There's Sisto there with the UFO in the background, and they would camp and fast. They would not eat, or they would drink juice and water, because they said that brought them into a frequency where they could have the contact. Then the being would come and open up a portal called a Zendra. And I actually saw a Zendra open up at Mount Shasta. And that being would be in the Zendra because it's a common atmosphere. So they could breathe and you could breathe. And you walk into the Zendra, and whatever they communicated would be telepathic. I am speaking here about a contact I had in Shasta, but I am in Cordova, Argentina. And during the talk that Ricardo was giving, there is no airport there. There are no flight paths. There were UFOs in the sky. I got this picture. This is my photo. And there is the people. This is how they do it in Latin America. Thousands of people outside. There must have been, in this particular case, there must have been, oh my God, at least 700. They bring their families, they camp, and the lectures are outdoors. What you're seeing in front of you is the peace flag, the Rorish peace flag. The 3 dots, which are the stones of Chintamani, and the circle, which was the first peace flag given to Woodrow Wilson during the League of Nations. Now, Nicholas Roerich was a Hermetic mystic that was originally Russian but lived in Lhasa in India. And he painted, and there's a Roerich museum. You'll see some of his paintings during the this presentation, because he believed that we got knowledge from the ETs. And of course, we go back to India, we go back to Tibet. Again, I mentioned there's a connection with Indian spirituality, not religion, but spirituality. It is basically simple and what the Apunians believe. This is Antarel. He is the contact for Ricardo Gonzalez. He also looks like Godard, the contact for Veronica Wells. In that they come from planet Apu. This is the contact place in Shasta, where Antarel stood next to a tree in 2014. I saw him with 5 people, including Ricardo's wife. And he had given us a message in 2014. And here we are. This is us, 2014. The woman that has the pink turban is my Italian interpreter, because as I said, everything was in Spanish. So what they want us to do is lead the way to, in other words, the message was basically, if you will lead, we will match your efforts. If you want help, we will intercede. If you don't understand that we're all connected, then we are at a loss. Just like they gave the warning to Vlado Kapitanovich to move the people. Here is a very short presentation on Luis Fernando. Here I am in the Chilca Desert. That is the spot where that man appeared. The 10-foot tall man appeared, but his ship landed. And he came over to Ricardo, clank, 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 he would hear. He wasn't a robot, but it was the kind of sound, he said, very robotic, and said, we've been watching you please be our emissary. And Ricardo, he's still on, and I can't believe that he's still talking on he's still talking on Facebook as we speak. So if we will lead, that means those of us that have heard about this will talk about it. We will talk about it everywhere. There is Ivica that says to Ricardo, I am of your generation because you have had a disaster on Earth. And she talks about the possible timeline of disaster on Earth. Here is a painting of Rorish. There's Rorish with the peace flag, the Bandiera de la Paz, which was given, remember, to the League of Nations, which was the first United Nations. So is the best basic message world peace? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not just individual, responsibility or individual, raising of consciousness or becoming a better person. Everybody has to come together. It's world peace. And you can see us in Shasta with, now this is a personal thing. When I went to Peru, it was very difficult because I wanted to follow Ricardo's footsteps. And on 2 occasions, our van broke down. This is at the top of the Andes. Ricardo is in the red shirt. We're trying to pour water there. You can see the cameraman. It is not easy doing this. And the people there are the people that are receptive to this message. The community, whether it's very, very spiritual. And so here's some of the beautiful people of Peru. And here we are trying to put water in the van because I had to go and experience this myself. I'm doing this presentation because I lived it. And I lived how these people all cooperate. There's Ricardo in the red. The bus stopped to see if we needed any help. And so, in other words, we need to come together to help each other and realize that there are wars going on in the world and that we need to do heavy peace work. The second book that Ricardo wrote is called The Ark. And when I went to the Chilca Desert, not the Chilca Desert, the Atacama Desert in Chile, this had to do with the Ark. Here we are again. The Ark is an attempt to save planet Earth, which they say is going to need saving if we don't do something. And why you see the radio telescopes in the Spanish version of the Ark is that there's a place called Alma in near the Chilca Desert in Chile. Alma means liftoff. Those radio telescopes are there. It's 15,000 feet, so I could never go there, but Ricardo and his group went there, are from NASA, China, United States, European Space Agency. So don't let them tell you they're not getting messages from space. 15,000 feet in a place called Alma in Chile, they are getting messages. And why that place is called liftoff is because, and they're hoping it's not going to happen, they have to lift off the children. This is why he's got in one of his posters, the astronaut kids. The only way they can save the DNA on one timeline is to take the kids off the planet. And so he talks about this, if you want to read in detail, in the book called The Ark, like Noah's Ark, like the destructions we've had in the past, where we've had to, come back and regenerate the planet. This is one of the messages of the Eponians. I think it's really, really interesting. We had the Ark translated into English, and I've recommended that people read this summer, that they take the summer to read. This is Mount Shasta. This is Ricardo. This is a very short presentation, but I did a video before this. I don't know if you can hear me now. Let me stop the screen. Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. I did a video presentation just before this on reading. And and getting the information. You can't just get it on podcasts. And the only news of UFOs in the United States right now is government disclosure. Well, the government is playing games while down in Peru and in the Atacama Desert and different places there's contact and there's messages being given. They're not being given to the United States because there's nobody that's doing the connections here. So I'm doing my best because what they want to have happen is us to lead, to talk about it. And the last time I was in the Atacama Desert, I think it was 2016, Ricardo had a face-to-face meeting. We saw the ship over us. It was stationary with Ivica. And what she said was we were going to have some storms and ecological disasters, and that we needed to be prepared for them. And there was going to be a serious problem with water. She said water. And I remember his coming down from the sand dunes in tears, giving us this message, and my saying, how am I going to tell people that we have to be careful because we're having ecological problems, climate change. A lot of our thoughts, a lot of our negativity is affecting Pachamama or Mother Earth. How do I explain that to people? Because I'm sitting here in the Atacama Desert. He's just had contact. The ship is over our heads. So I know this is all real. It's not a joke. How do we get this message through? So I decided to do this class sharing some of this, but in order for people to get the details, because they need the details, they need to read it from the source. So again, I'm recommending Contact from Planet Apu, The Ark, and what all the other guys said, those other 5 contactees said from my book, all of the above. The original book was all of the above, and then I added and beyond because I had to extend my research. Meditation is important. Positive thinking is important, but we have to realize when you're watching the news and everything that this has been predicted. And I think that it can be mitigated. I think we all need to take responsibility for it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to do my part and try to say that, yes, we could be interested in UFOs, but this is just UFOs. We need to come together. And everybody gets discouraged and they go, how do we do that? Well, the only answer to that is the 100th monkey effect. It takes just a few people. It just takes, like they say, a few points of light. It takes a few raising of consciousness, and then automatically in the zeitgeist, in the ozone, in the air, on the other side of the world, the consciousness will raise. It's just like, Ricardo said in the video, Crestone, he said, this planet is attached to other planets. When we raise consciousness, they raise theirs. We're all connected. It's not like they became brilliant and then they're trying to pass it on. It's like we're all supposed to raise it together because everything is consciousness, so we're basically all one. We're all one energy. We are all one. And it's so hard to remember that. So I'm going to try to raise the, let people, raise their hands if they want to communicate. Thank you so much for attending. I'm doing the best I can. I would like to get other speakers to be a part of this so that we can have almost an online university, which for me is like a dream come true. So